Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, semua dah makan, insyaAllah tak ngantuk. Okay, and what I will cover this afternoon is that on how we integrate ethics in our PBL. Okay, and so I call it the human touch. Okay, why I use this term? Because with all this year, everybody are talking about digital healthcare, digitalization of healthcare. And what makes a doctor cannot be replaced by a robot is actually your human touch. In fact, studies in Japan have shown that even empathy can be produced by their robots, can be expressed by their robots. Okay, I think when I went to digital healthcare conference in Jakarta this year, they show one study of Japan who create a robot that can express empathy. So to the extent that we are talking about, are we being replaced by all these robots? So I think the market value of a doctor is actually their human touch. Okay, but it is not easy. Okay, and so I cover on this aspect, basically on the mercy. Okay, this is the old system, the 3 phases system, which Bakia is the product of it, where we have the phase 1, year 1, where we focus mainly on the classroom teaching. Okay, and now my PPIP focus hospital attachment and community placement and other things are in year 1. Then we have phase 2, where we have year 2 and year 3. So here is all the normal. Here is an application of normal to the pathological condition. So we started PBL in phase 2. And in phase 2, students have one afternoon session every week where they go to hospital, clerk case and present case to the clinical lecturers. Okay, so they have that for 2 years. Okay, so they have the introduction of ethics and communication here in year 1, but in year 2, then only they have the PBL. Then in phase 3, then they are full-blown the clinical phase. So here is the intermediate, where they have mostly the basic sciences application to pathology, but they also have certain clinical exposure. Okay, so we do PBL here. We didn't do in year 1. Okay, but later on in 2013, we start our curriculum review. We start with need assessment, situational analysis. So I've been involved in the situational analysis, and we do survey among lecturers, students, community who receive our students, and also patients. We do a questionnaire survey, and we found that the integrated system approach was acceptable, but ethics part, students feel very boring, can't understand the significance of it in year 1, because we started at the very beginning of year 1. We talked about professionalism, we talked about ethics and so on. They didn't really get it. Okay, it's very boring, and lecturers keep on asking, why ask us to teach ethics? Who's supposed to teach ethics? And the clinician, they say that we want to teach students to take history, to take physical examination, to make diagnosis, not to teach them on ethics. Okay, so ethics something like is separated from the main, so it is not really integrated. Okay, but the community people are saying that the program is good. Okay, the students learn how to communicate at the village. So then we do our revamp, where now we have year 1, phase 1, which is year 1 and year 2, where we integrate basic sciences straight away with organ system approach, and we started PBL from the very beginning of year 1. So now from the very beginning of year 1, they have PBL. Mind you, at this time, they doesn't have any exposure to patient in ward. They straight away go for problem-based. That's why we have problem-based and we have clinical-based. Okay, so what happened in the PBL is that previously we have 3 sessions of PBL in old system. where the first trigger will be about the history. The second trigger will explain more about the history and give the investigation. And the third trigger will reveal the investigation result plus the diagnosis and the management. Okay. We can do that previously because we did it in the phase 2, year 2, year 3, where the student already learned about our overview of management and have experience to talk to patient. Okay. Now, in new curriculum, we have students for 2 years who did not have any interaction with real patient. They will learn history taking, they will learn physical examination with simulated patient. Now we also have moved from simulated patient into standardized patient. What's the difference between the two? Petang-petang kena nanya sikit. What is the difference between simulated patient and standardized patient? Anybody knows? Simulated patient means that a person who are not a patient act like a patient. Standardized patient is a person who act like a patient, but we train them to give feedback. So that is standardized. We train them to give history. We train them how to react with a certain situation of the medical student reaction, and we train them to give feedback. So that is standardized patient. So in Kubang Krian, we have a pool of standardized patient. Standardized patient, our pool comes from our own attendants, our nurses, our support staff, as well as usually the family members of our staff as well, who we use for the clinical history taking and physical examination session, as well as in OSCE. Okay, so we have standardized patient. So these students are exposed only to standardized patient, not to actual patient. So, and their input here in phase 1 is mainly on integrated basic sciences with organ system, but not on the real management. So our PBL have to be cut off, not to cover the management side. Previously we have 3 with that, okay? So, but we still started our GMT 103 ethics teaching at the very beginning because we want students, when they do problem solving of a problem-based learning, they already have that inclination of the ethics part of it. So we have to give them some input. Okay, but when they go for phase 2, they start the clinical clerkship. They also have to go for problem-solving approach. So at this time, we make them clinical-based learning, CBL. What's the difference between the two is that PBL is that we created a trigger to trigger them to think, to solve the problem. In CBL, the student clerk patient. So the trigger is made by them, basically. They clerk patient and they will discuss how to solve the problem of the patient, but in a more structured way. Okay, we have a structured CBL, which include also the integration of basic sciences. Okay, so PBL is this one is CBL. Okay, so we leave first on the CBL because this will take another 2 years of you before you go for this one. Then we focus on the PBL. Okay, so why ethics in PBL? We have gone through evidences on medical education, and it is that because our PBL is student-centered approach, and we want ethics to be taught in a way of active participation, and that will be in the PBL. Okay, and we have a simulated situation from the trigger. Okay, and we hopefully then can nurture the holistic approach. Because ethics is not about definition, it's about description. It is not about memorizing what is ethics, what is proportionalism. I always tell my student, I don't have to teach ethics, actually. I just have to remind you. Prof. Zabidi kata, kita ajar ethics ni untuk nak suruh orang jadi juru je. Tu je, nak remind orang suruh jadi juru. Juru, tahu tak? Kalau Kelantan, dia orang baik, kan? Okay? So that's the whole thing. So because ethics is common sense, but it only makes sense to those who have sense, or else they are nonsense. Yeah? Okay? So that is my word. Okay, you cannot find it in any books. Okay, so we have the clinical case. So even in the case trigger, we straight away give a name of the case, because we want to highlight the student. Later on, when you become a doctor, you didn't do walk around and say that hepatitis case, that GIT, that's CA case, but you are talking about a human with a name. Okay, so but in our PBL, you will see that we doesn't have EN titik Ahmad, because we have our counterpart in KLE. Previously, we put that Encik Ahmad EN titik, so dia baca EN titik. Okay, so our PBL all are using Mr., Mrs. and nama pun kita dah tukar jadi nama anak-anak millennium lah. Okay, nama canggih-canggih sikit. Okay, Danisha dan all those things lah. Okay, so that is the main reason. But we give name. Okay, because actually in one of my workshop on teaching ethics, I still remember one of the clinicians says that, why should we teach our students that every time we go for walk around, we have to greet our patient? Why should we greet our patient? The patient know that I'm his or her doctor. So if that is coming from a clinical lecturer, how are you think that they can give a role model on communication skill to your student? Okay, so that's very important for you to look back into that. So we create this, we use Mercy, I go for the Mercy, and we also have certain teaching aids. I will go in detail on that. Okay, I'll give you an example. A trigger is something that unfinished story. A trigger is unfinished story. Okay, why we buy unfinished story? Because we just want to trigger. If we give all the storyline, so the student doesn't have anything to ask anymore. So the student will have things to questions. And the thing is that many students, you will find later, student will complain, tak masuk lagi kelas topik ni, kenapa dah ada PBL? Okay, that's the comment from the student side. The reason why, because it's just a trigger. It's a trigger for them to learn. So kalau dia tak masuk lagi, katalah dia trigger ni pasal diabetes, tapi dia tak masuk lagi lecture diabetes mellitus, tak apa. Sebab it's trigger them to find out what they will have to know about diabetes. So that's the meaning of PBL trigger. Okay, so trigger means that for them to ask more questions. So previously, during the old system, the more information on the history will be given in second session. Okay, but in new system, we only have 2 sessions. Okay, we only have 2 sessions, and the student never have experience for the patient, with this patient. So we gave them trigger. Okay, we gave them all out. Okay, and we give team. Okay, we develop team of each trigger to be catchy team, so that they can understand. This is part of experiential learning concept. Means that they will remember this catchy thing. We have Let Me Go, which is related to Frozen, and a lot of other things. Okay, so learning objective. This trigger will be uploaded in e-learning. Okay, so uploaded in e-learning, student will take it. Lecturer won't be given any hard copy anymore. Okay, triggers will be sent to the lecturers, PBL facilitators, through email. Okay, through email. Student will be given the learning objective after, on the second session, or after 30 minutes, I couldn't remember which one, but not earlier on. So they have to discuss first. Then after that, they will check whether that discussion is in line with the learning objective. So we call it facilitator. We didn't call it PBL tutor. tutor is someone in medical education, in educational system, tutor means that the one who disseminate information. PBL facilitator does not give information. Facilitator just facilitate the discussion. So facilitator can be the one who are not expert content. Okay, meaning that the facilitator, for example, trigger of diabetes, is not supposed to be people from medical department, because they just facilitate, and we have facilitator guide to facilitate the facilitator to guide the student so that they meet the learning objective. Of course, the complaint from the student is that they are more, they say it's more interesting if the facilitator are also medical doctors. Because usually, you know lah, medical doctor ni boleh cakap, mulalah, oh I dulu kan masa I kerja sini kan. So kita ada cerita kan, kita banyak cerita sikit. Okay, that is part of experiential learning. Okay, I'll touch on that after this. So with this trigger, we are not only expect our students to discuss anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, but also the ethical part of it. Okay, so the learning objective, we put it, apply pathophysiology in the clinical presentation, apply surface anatomy, discuss the implication of the clinical situation to the patient care. Okay. So the same thing, student will be taught to identify keyword, okay, and then the student will after that look into whether keyword in line with the learning objective. Okay, so this is MERCY. MERCY is actually an acronym created by Prof. Zabidi, Prof. Kamaliah and Prof. Teguh. Now semua tak ada kat USM dah. Okay, and so it started bila? Around 2012, something like that. It's just a thinking framework, okay, for a student to really get that whatever you teach, whatever you look into a problem, you have to think of all these things, which is M stands for understand the clinical condition, E, the empathy, right and respect, communication, and I. Many people, after doing so many trainings so far, I realized that even the lecturer misunderstands the I. As a medical doctor, you are taught in psychiatry, insight means that the patient have insight of their illness, right? But our insight here is that the doctor insight of patient problem, other than medical problem. Okay, other than medical problem. And even though we put it MERCI, actually all this is very important component for you to consider to achieve the effective communication. Okay? Cuma kita nak susun biar nampak cantik lah jadi MERCY, kan? Sebenarnya, you need to consider all this for your effective communication. Okay, so we did a study a few years back. This is part of master medical education dissertation on the evaluation of MERCY in PBL. So we look into these three themes: the benefit, the usability, and the dependability on facilitators. And we found that students are saying that they discuss MERCY more because it was wanted for them. It was expected from them. Okay? And they just want so that the tutor, the facilitator don't buat bising lah. Okay, you tak present lagi MERCY and so on. Okay? So, and is the role of PBL facilitator to motivate more lively discussion. Okay? So this is the point that they put it in. But and in a way, it can able to organize the thought flow. MERCY is very organized. to discuss about ethical aspect. It gives a guide and teaches not to just treat patient with medical and so on. Okay, so this is the students after 2 years of mercy in PBL, and they say this is repetitive. So some of the students say it's not important, but at the end of the day, they just put it at the last objective. So that gives us the hypothesis that whether ethics discussion is the afterthought, means that are we training our students when they become doctor, they see a patient, they manage a patient, and after managing the patient, then they start to think, is there an ethical issue there? Which is not correct. It should be as they go along the way. Okay? So this is the challenges that we found in our qualitative study, whereby the student, because attachment at the hospital, this is for the hospital attachment as well. We want to know how they perform, how they talk to the patient. We just need an example, real one. This is the thing that we have to highlight, role model. You as the lecturers, you are as the educators are the role model. Because students really say this in our qualitative study. Okay, and sharing experience from PBS facilitator, they really love it. And the benefit, of course, they still say that later in our life, in stress, because we do it repeatedly, we start to think, program that in our own mind becomes autopilot. Okay, so they say that after a while, mercy is now like our norm in PBL. We can automatically, our brain will save it and automatically practice that. Okay, so we see the benefit of it. We see the possibility of putting that in PBL. Okay, which we didn't do that. Previously, ethics is only discussed in PBL during the block bioethics. That's all. So now ethics discussion will be in every PBL. Okay. So post-evaluation, we retrain our students, okay, because we realize that it is not the other way around. So, for example, I will say to the students that, okay, the first trigger is that just, okay, this, this young man names so and so age, and we say a little bit of history. So you are looking into what actually happened and so on. So then think straight away, how he feel about it. Not at the last end, but start now. How do you feel? What is his fear? Right? So that's how we teach our students. We also do ongoing training for facilitators. And now, since PBL is part of summative assessment, means that facilitators will give marks to students after PBL session, and that marks will be used as continuous assessment, 30% continuous assessment for the credit system. So we have to train and certify our PBL facilitator to give marks. Okay? So that's the main thing. We have to do the ongoing training facilitators. And we have to rephrase our learning objective. So we put the deep implication, and we also rearrange facilitator guide. Previously, I did the facilitator guide. After all those things, then I put mercy component. And what is mercy? So now, for every discussion, for example, okay, this may be a case of bronchopneumonia, and this is in mercy, this is M. So we have to rearrange that again, because we also need to guide our facilitators. And we also reconstruct our effective the trigger. And actually I went for the My Ohun, which is One Health University Network training on PBL, and I love the way they put it as FILA, facts, ideas, learning issues, and action. I mean that in every trigger, the student have to look into what is known, what may be the problem, what need to know, and then goes to the action needed for the solving. So we also go through this approach, and we split the trigger. Okay, so now we split the trigger. So you see that now we put MS, not J. Okay, because for KLE, Cik, they didn't understand as Miss. Okay, so Miss Zarina, we give a name and 19-year-old, and so on. We give the team. Okay, so team must be something for the new generation as well. So she informs that Zarina was stabbed in the abdomen. So if you use the fila, then we know this 19-year-old girl stabbed at the abdomen. What is the, so if you go to I just now, so this is crime case. So what is the learning issue? What actually happened? Okay, and the action, we have to interview her friend. Okay, and examine Zarina. So any points of ethical consideration here? Okay, the other thing is that we didn't use the word ethical issues, because when we talk about issues, it always goes to the negative part, right? So we use the word ethical considerations, whereby what do you have to consider when you manage the case? Okay? And I presented this in Taiwan, and many people actually agree that we should not highlight as issues, we should highlight that in consideration. Okay, so then we split just now into trigger A and trigger B, okay, 1 and 2. Okay, so I think that's why I have given the example of the trigger. Or it is in the file. Okay, so this is the new trigger format. Okay, where you can see that the first trigger, there's a teaching aid. The PBL facilitator. Okay, not that one. Tak ada. Okay, I show you here. Yeah, the one that I email. Mana dah I buka tadi, duduk mana? Okay. So this is the version for facilitator. What the student will get, okay, when they went for the PBL, they will get the first, they will get only, okay, this team is brain accident, they will get only part A. When they open their e-learning, they only get part A. Only after 30 minutes of PBL 1, they can open up and get the part B. Okay? And so if you look into part B, part A is only a brief history, and then the physical examination, and maybe the investigation. So the examination, and we straight away give the diagnosis. Of course, if those who are familiar with PBL previously, macam tak suspend, tak best lah kan, terus bagi diagnosis. Okay? But because this is phase 1, which not covering diagnosis and management yet, so we have to give the diagnosis. Okay? The students are not expected to create a diagnosis, to come into diagnosis. Okay. Okay. And we also simplify the investigation. Of course, the clinician will say that, oh, there's other more investigation to be done. We simplify that because that is not the focus for phase 1 now. Okay. The focus now is just integrating basic sciences into the pathological setting. Okay, so setengah-setengah clinician kalau pegang PBS sekarang ni dia rasa tak best lah. Macam dulu sampai management and so on. Okay, so yang ni macam cerita tak habis. Okay, and so we will give. Okay, this is discussion point for facilitator only. So we give all the point, and so this is the point, and inline that with the LO. Okay. Okay. It takes few pages, that's why we didn't print it. Okay? So we straight away put that the discussion and straight away go to the scenario. So we tell our facilitator, every time students talk about theory and concept, they have to go back to the scenario. Okay, so we put that facilitator guide because we know that not all facilitators are doctors, medical doctors. Okay, so here we also put that, let the student be aware that this is part of I in mercy thinking. So you can see that I is from the very beginning. Okay, in here this is 50-year-old lady brought by family members. So what is the I? Meaning that she maybe live with family members, she have a good family member support and so on. So that is the I. Okay, so this is how we create that. Okay, so then we go to trigger. This is the trigger that I use in training of the students, the hypo-love. Okay, but we put that to the you hurt my liver and give you a little bit on that, and student can go to the FILA, okay, and look into the ethical consideration. Okay. So do you need the information on her mother to discuss ethical issue, or you doesn't need? For in this case, we may not need. Okay. So then we teach our students that the abdomen, the bleeding, the abdominal distension, that is the M. Okay, how the patient feel betrayed because the boyfriend stabbed her, feel not loved, that is empathy. But still you have to respect the patient and the patient care in terms of need urgent operation, this can be a crime case, that is I. Who will take care of her? It's very interesting when I put this up to student training. Students start say that, oh, this girl are not good. Yeah? Say, yeah, maybe, but it is not for us to judge. Okay? We as a doctor should not be judgmental. So then they realize, oh, that's what you mean by non-judgmental. She still have the right. Okay? And then what else? So I want to highlight on the I. And then one of the students says that maybe her mother didn't know that she had boyfriend. Maybe her mother thought she went to tuition and everything or go to work. So the mother will be very angry. So that is the I. So if you are a doctor and you want to say that this need operation and you need somebody to take care of her after operation, which is the mother, how it will be done if the mother is angry with the girl? So that is the I. So we discuss those things and in fact, students are saying that, oh, maybe she doesn't want her mother to know and all those things, okay? So there's a lot of discussion, actually, to discuss. Okay, and then if I have time, I can write something about the teaching aids. So I give you a few teaching aids and for you to read. And of course, to write, I need time, I need mood. So there's not so many so far that I've done. And so for example, for this PBL, and I make this writing trapped with no means of escape. Sometimes it just triggers after I read storybooks or my Facebook and everything. So this is just for the students to get the idea. Because our students nowadays also have parents who are healthy. They may not be having any experience dealing with stroke patient like this. So they could not really get what is the empathy part of it. And they never go to ward to see the stroke patient and how they suffer. So we need to give them stories. Yeah? So this is how we try to give them stories. Because I have to overcome the comment from the students that they want PBL facilitator who are medical doctor who can share their experience in dealing with such patient. So I have to really complement that with stories. So some of the stories I made it. I think this one I made it when I was boring dekat Taiwan while waiting for the ethics discussion. So it goes to that way lah. Okay, and so it's just a teaching aids for the students who read through and get what people understand, what people feeling. It's more of empathy story. It's just for them to read. So I put up in the e-learning so that when they discuss on empathy later, they can reflect the story that I put them in. But it's not in all PBL. I use infographic for this one. This is from, I think this is Guillain-Barré syndrome, I think. Few days ago, I'm walking, I can go everywhere I want, it's so easy. Suddenly my legs feel funny, what is happening, okay? And so, am I now disabled person, and all those things, okay? So, this is just to help students to understand and overcome their need of PBL facilitator who are medical doctors who can share experience, okay? Because we cannot have all clinicians to become the PBL facilitator. And now with the current system, our clinical lecturers are busy with CBL and they have to focus on CBL. Okay, so we cannot expect them to become the PBL facilitator for our phase 1. So we have to take not only our lecturers who have MD or MBBS, but also those from biomedicine and so on with PhD. Okay, so that's we have to do that. And we have ePBL database where in every starting, this will be more detailed in PBL training later, where a lecturer will straight away identify which PBL they want to take up for the academic year, so that we didn't call for every. So if they have sabbatical, so they know straight away they should have this one. So that's planning. Okay. So we have that in our place now. So for example, for me, I always take PBL for GMT 103, so PBL 3 and 4, as well as 206, my community medicine PBL. Okay. Okay. So sometimes I come across YouTube, so I put the YouTube in the e-learning, okay? And so it depends. Sometimes students shows YouTube that they found, and we put it in the e-learning to appreciate, to recognize the student and find the YouTube, which is a good YouTube, okay? And so that's the thing. But only the thing is that now we have to put that all in English because we have international student. And our international student, for year 1 and year 2, they're still not good in Malay language yet. So we have to put in English. Okay, so that is one of the challenge that we have to do. Okay, so it's just types of it. It depends which one I feel I want to write it. For this one is empathy, is that this I took from one of the written in the website, but I changed it a little bit more. On this is for the GMT 101 cellular, where they talk about necrosis and so on. So we have PBL on a child with an infected wound or leg wound. So how the parents feel when the doctor says that your child need an operation, debridement. Okay, so that's the thing. Okay, then we do another evaluation, and we found out that the lecturers as well as the students give the feedback that it's too much to discuss within the 2 sessions per week. Okay, so with that, then we put, that's the reason why the last version is that we put 1 and 2 in one, and very skimpy, very scanty, because we doesn't want to burden the students to discuss too many things. Okay, and so for example in this one we cut that, so this one, and after after 30 minutes, then we give the next one. Okay, and previously, when we asked lecturers to review on PBL, actually what we did for the after we finish up the revamp, me and Anissa and a few medical educationists have to relook into PBL. So I have to do everything about PBL. So there's 46 PBL altogether that we have to review. and we ask our lecturers to do as expert content, then I look back into the facilitator, because sometimes they tend to give so many information which is not needed for phase 1. And usually when they write, when they want to add on something for ethical discussion, they put that, like for this one, she lives with a single mother who works as a cleaner. So I said, there's no need of that. Because for you to discuss on ethical concern, you doesn't have a PT story. Okay? So we doesn't need that. We still can discuss that without the PT story there. Okay? And so we give the team. Okay, the other thing that we did is that sometimes this is part of the concept of team-based learning, whereby because you cannot afford to get facilitator who are expert content. Okay, so facilitator is the one who guide the PBL so that the discussion is going towards the learning objective. Okay, but team-based learning means that you later on have one session where the where the expert content will give all the input later. So we call it the basic to clinical. And what we did is that we call up clinician to give session related to the PBL during the PPIP slot. Okay, so we give it during PPIP slot. For example, when in PBL, the GMT 102, when they discuss about congenital abnormality and the genetic malformation, all those genetic things. So I remember one day I have to catch siapa dah, Dr. Yop? Dr. Yop, our neurosurgeon, and who take his 30 minutes between OT to come to the lecture hall and tell the story of how he managed a patient who come with amphalocele. Okay, so and then he start understanding that's why you need to know embryology, because in this case when you want to operate, you have to understand this and so on. So he just thought to say that why you need to know physiology, why you need to know embryology for you to manage a patient from a clinician point of view. Okay, so this helps students to realize the need of them to integrate basic sciences to the clinical setting. Okay, I think previously when our time, maybe not that much problem because we are taught anatomy by orthopedic surgeon. And our radiologist also the one who talk about teach us about anatomy and so on. The surgeon talks about biochemistry and so on. So it's different. Now the people who are specific discipline on that basic sciences teach them. So they need to have that integration. Okay? So I try as much as possible to get this. It is not easy. It's very challenging to get the clinician. But I tell you, the thing is that don't underestimate, because clinician actually really wants to tell, really wants to give something to even the basic sciences phase 1 students, and students really love this the session. Okay, in fact, you famous kejap masa tu. Okay, and and then sometimes if I could get been there, feel that session where I call up patient or our USM staff who have been patient to share their experience. Okay, I remember I called one previously she's a Masters of Medical Education. She had chronic rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, and so she tells the story that okay, first it's not easy for a layman to understand what is all this immuno problem, isn't it? Okay, for them to understand their own body eating themselves, it's not easy. And then afterwards, they say that my doctor never shout at me, never yell at me. If you say communication is something about talking harsh to the patient and everything, it's not that. But I expect my doctor to foresee before that, which is I expect my doctor, when I said my knee become worse and worse, I expect my doctor to refer me to the orthopedic. But she didn't refer me to orthopedic surgeon. She's very polite. She very understanding on my pain and so on. But she didn't refer me to orthopedic surgeon until I asked her to refer me to orthopedic surgeon. So that is part of it. She said that it's not just communication, not just by talking politely, but more of the I. And when I do reflection to the student realize this is I. Okay? And then she said that when I went to the orthopedic surgeon, the orthopedic surgeon straight away says that, okay, you need knee replacement operation. It's a very costly operation. How is your financial? Who do you work with? Do your organization can give you the support for financial? And then she said all those things. She said, okay, I will write a letter to your boss saying that you need to do this operation and whether your organization can help you. So she said, that is what a doctor means to me. And that is the I still. So the story really tells the student how important it is not just to focus on M, but the E and the I is also important. So we also have lecturers who have suffers from Guillain-Barré syndrome, who tells how she first felt when she cannot move at all. So that is focusing on the E, empathy. So we did sometimes have this, but it's also challenging, and you have to have all this networking to find a patient who can communicate and who can share their experience, which is not easy. But I always, for these two tasks, I always remember my mentor says, Prof. Zabidi said that, please use your human touch, Azwani. Means that it is not that you put in the email, you send letters for invitation, but you have to ask the person personally. And that is what I'm doing. Okay, so sometimes my work is basically on the WhatsApp, okay, and Facebook Messenger. Okay, that's how I found people who wants to contribute to discuss on this thing. Through Facebook, I can see who's posting is empathy, who concern, and so on. Okay, I always being asked by people whether on Facebook is ethical for you to Facebooking with your students. And for me, Facebook is my work, I say. Okay, for me, Facebook is my work. In fact, Prof. Aziz Babar previously says that he never thought Facebook can become part of the job. Okay, but for me, it is. I can identify lecturers who are actually have the sense to contribute to help students in terms of attitude and personality. I can identify students who are willing to help the juniors. Okay, when I want to do on the students who probably failure student for motivation, I want to find seniors to help the junior. And my TDA at that time says that, how can you find a senior? They are in their verge, nervous or exam time. I said, I can find it. I just go to the Facebook, find those who I think I can, and then I ask for 5, 10 comes in. Okay, so that's how you have to use networking. I also identify students who have problems through Facebook. Okay, I have students who say that, I'm sorry, my friend, if I cannot laugh with you, if I cannot smile when you make a joke and so on. So I didn't contact her, I contact her friend. I know her friend through the Facebook, who is the one who close to her. And I found out she had a reactive depression because her mother just passed away in our ICU. And later on, I contact her through Facebook Messenger, and she said, yes, she could not go to class because for her to go to the hospital area, she had to go through ICU. So I called her up, asked her whether she wants to see our counselor or psychologist. She said yes, so after 2 sessions, she's been able to go to class. So I can find all those who can help through Facebook. And I also have our graduates who later post in the Facebook that, now I know why breaking bad news is something very important. Now I know why from the very beginning we are taught about effective communication. So that is And I keep on motivating them to write in the Facebook because the junior now are reading it. And that is their life experiential learning. Okay? And I sometimes call them out to talk to our students so that they know how to survive in medical school. So that is the networking that I've been doing. In fact, if you know Jack Naim, the writer, the author of Diagnosis, Prognosis, that is one of our students. Okay, and I still have graduates who keep on messaging me when they have problems also. Okay, problems in clinical, I mean. Okay, so all this we have done. So basically, the thing that I want to highlight here is that many things that medical ethics is separated from medical teaching. It should be integrated. And evidence-based is actually part of medical ethics. Why this is very important is that because when we start to revamp medical curriculum, the curriculum design, I started to talk about the importance of introducing evidence-based medicine. And many people say that, even I still remember one of the lecturers says that, why are you so crazy to ask us to teach evidence-based when we are here to teach our students to make diagnosis and treat patient. But how are you going to treat patient and manage if you didn't know evidence-based? So they said, yeah, we are teaching them evidence-based, but there's no point of them to learn how to read papers, how to look at journals and so on. No, we have to do that because evidence-based is part of ethics. If you did not give your management the best care, it's unethical, it's not professional. So it is part of our professionalism. So that's why my academic qualification of epidemiologists really go for this evidence-based. So I teach our students on how to search for journal, how to read papers. Of course, we didn't expect them to really critically appraise that journal to the level of those who have been doing research before. But at least they have this idea that there are lots and lots of evidence and where they have to come to journal. Because when you want to deal with the new generation of so much so going for search at their fingertips, is for you to deviate that habit to the correct one. So they love to search. And I tell you, whenever I teach them how to search, they can search better. In fact, I remember one student who gave to me the case discussion, because in our public health assignment is they have to look into surveillance data and then interpret the surveillance data and look into that. So they give me even the meta-analysis paper. And I said, how can you understand this meta-analysis? Oh, I didn't understand, but I Googled again the term. So it's just, don't underestimate this current generation, but makes their love of this internet and all those things, because they know how to search, maybe better than you. They understand what is web page, what is search engine, and so on. So we just asked them, but of course we didn't expect them to really critically appraise and so on. But at least they know about this thing, so that later on, they know that this will be the one, the bread and butter for them in their management. So I hope you also realize that evidence-based medicine is part of medical ethics, because if you want to aim for diagnostic, for therapeutic, for prognostic, everything you need evidences, and for you to have the best care also you need evidences. So EBM is part of medical ethics, is part of the whole thing as well. Okay, and so that medical ethics teaching is not an additional to medical education, but a complementary of it. Because there's so many people say that why I have to teach ethics, why we have to teach ethics, as if it is an additional thing, but actually it is not additional thing, it's part and parcel of it. Okay, so that's all. Thank you. Ada nak tanya soalan ke?
My question is on the, I would say, standardization of the PBL facilitators, because they give marks for the summative assessment. So is there, other than giving them guide, like they are supposed to closely adhering to the guidelines, ada macam rubric ke macam mana nak?
I didn't touch on that because that will be in the PBL training workshop. But we have a rubric. In fact, our rubric also we have modified that after evaluation. And from the rubric, they know that for this attribute, what is the 1, what is the 10. Okay? So we have a few domain, and that will be also teach during the PBL training session for the facilitators. And we tell also our students, this is how they are going to be assessed. So in student PBL training session also, we inform them on that. For the facilitator also, we train them how to use that rubric and for the marking. Okay, that will be next PBL lah kot, kena panggil team PBL. But I'm also part of the PBL team. Okay. Anything else? So we hope that because this PBL trigger, and we have 46 PBL trigger, but we hope that we can have more triggers so that we can some sort of change and recycle. So we already trained our KLE counterparts to make their own triggers. In fact, they are also adding on certain because there in Belgaum, the inside part may be different because they have casta, they have all those things. So they will add on in the PBL facilitator, and we are asking our expert content also to make more triggers. So later on, we will teach you how, once you're stable with all these things, we will teach you how to develop triggers, and hopefully you can also contribute to the PBL and triggers development. The other thing that I'm doing now is that massive open online course, or the MOOC, for patient safety. As you know that MQA, for the past few years, MQA is always asking, do you teach patient safety? Okay, we have that in mind, but from the TACE workshop, then we realized that we need to add more patient safety, because the student have to understand. For example, they learn how to do hand hygiene during communicable disease block. But later on, when they go to medical, they have to know that this that they learn in 204 during second year is the thing that they have to do in all the clinical procedures later. And they have to know that this is under patient safety. So what we did is that we want to merge all the materials of patient safety into one MOOC online course. Why we use MOOC? Because our e-learning is that in such a way that students of that semester can only look at that semester, and then when they move to the next semester, they cannot get back the semester. So what we did now is that we do a patient safety. So I finished on the module 1 patient safety, which is the ethics and communication. So that is on the GMT 103 actually. So now I'm moving to the module 2 patient safety. I finished on the introduction of patient safety goals and so on, because that is my talk, but we need more material. And so my discussion with my TACE group is that later on we want you to contribute as well, because to make a material is such you need time, okay, and we need more people to help us into that. I have students who volunteers to make videos. For example, they want to make video on pre-operative checklist. That is patient safety. That means patient cleaning. When you want to transfer the patient to the OT, you have to make sure the bed railing is up and so on. That is patient safety. So they want to make a video on that and make some narration. And we are doing that so far. And alhamdulillah, we have managed to have a studio for video recording. And hopefully we can do that as well. So later on we will invite you as the contributors. and that we can put that as your KPI as well, because in the online we have that name of the lecturers and the contributors. So that will be later. Okay, that is my current work. Yes. Yes.
Tapi apa yang saya faham dalam program MD yang sekarang ni, yang ikut perkara tu tak dibenarkan.
Ada.
Boleh.
Okay. Just now Dr. Intan have mentioned this morning, the passing mark is 2.67 CGPA. So if they fail, they have to repeat the paper. They have to repeat the paper when we offer the paper examination for their junior. Okay, because kita tak sempat nak buat satu lagi. Okay, so sebab kita dah tengok universiti punya ruling, dia boleh upgrade dia punya CGPA kalau dia di mana. So untuk yang 267 below saja yang boleh repeat. Maksudnya kalau dia dapat 3.33, dia nak upgrade jadi 4 flat tak boleh. So that is university ruling. So we will follow the same thing. So nanti dalam transkrip dia untuk course tu dia akan tulis GPA yang terbaik, tapi dia ada dalam bracket ulangan U. Bermakna yang terbaik tu selepas ulangan.
Sekarang lagi bila kita assign credit hours kan, 2 ataupun 3 dalam USM tu tentu ada formula berapa didactic lecture apa semua. So perkara tu dipenuhi lah.
That is according to the MQF.
Okay. Apabila, I mean, this is what I think the PPT for postgrad pun, katakan master program, the issue is always, kalau itu saya tanya juga yang pensyarah-pensyarah daripada katakan biology ke apa semua, the way dia punya system where 1 or 2 lecturers yang pegang satu kursus katakan. So 1 or 2 lecturers akan mengajar 2 or 3 credit hours. Is that what is happening di Pembangunan ataupun mengikut apa yang the master program di IPPT where satu kursus kemungkinan 10 pensyarah. So dia punya load tu tak banyak. Katakan bagi 2-3 jam kuliah sahaja. Tapi kalau kita tengok di biologi ke di kimia ke, heavy. Kan itu teaching load yang mereka ada 40 jam katakan satu semester.
Because kalau kita nak betul-betul follow yang induk punya, yang biology, chemistry dan sebagainya, dia ada paper yang bukan core. Kan ada paper yang elektif. Masalah dengan kita, semua paper kita adalah core. Paper kita semua core, maksudnya mesti ambil dan mesti lulus. Okay. The other thing is that because our teaching is really based on discipline and specialty. So we cannot say that this course 2 orang, 3 orang teacher. So sebab kita anatomy memang kena bagi orang anatomy department. Orang anatomy department yang akan bahagi-bahagikan, orang ni cover cardiovascular, orang ni cover nervous system, dan but in real world tak boleh juga sebab we doesn't have everybody there. So memang seorang tu akan cover 2-3 block juga. So that's what's happening. But we did so kita akan buat name list untuk lecturers yang in charge satu course, which because our integrated system memang jadi ramai. Sebab anatomy siapa dia, physiology siapa dia, hematology siapa dia, and so on. So we make that list, kita memang hantar masuk dalam sistem kita. So dalam e-learning akan terus keluar. We need that because cuma lecturer tu yang boleh buka course tu dalam e-learning. Dia je yang boleh masukkan lecture note dia ataupun teaching material lain ataupun GSL dan sebagainya. Jadi cuma lecturer yang dimasukkan dalam name list untuk course tu yang boleh.
Saya tak pasti dalam pensyarah-pensyarah yang terlibat khusus tu, whether automatically the teaching load for populated or not.
Okay, and
yeah. Kita tengok SCMS berapa jam mengajar. Senang lagi kalau di
It's different. Actually, last 2 days, TDA just message in our WhatsApp group, how are we looking into teaching loads of a lecturer? Sebab kalau dia orang senang, dia orang belajar, dia ngajar berapa minggu, berapa hours satu minggu dan sebagainya. Sebab dia ada kos yang budak kos lain pun masuk sekali, budak program lain masuk sekali. So dia ngajar, kadang-kadang bukannya semua budak sama. So tapi kita memang kita ngajar budak medik saja. Dan kursus kita macam-macam ni. So at the end, masa tu TDA duduk dekat MQA punya meeting rasanya, dekat KPT. So at the end of the day kata medik memang tak boleh. Sebab kita really based on discipline based and subspecialty based. But we can roughly estimate, I couldn't remember, Saiful buat estimation baru ni dalam WhatsApp. So we do that. But of course, our teaching load explode. That's for real.
MD, dia ada kod khusus kan? So apa yang berlaku kat sekarang, macam TTS, MSc, dia automatic upload dalam kita punya CMS, macam bukti pengajaran. Tapi kalau MMed, sebab dia ada kod khusus, so yang tu memang kita...
Yes. Okay. Untuk MD, sebab kita dah ada kod khusus dan kita dah letak bagi name list, dia dah masuk SUP, so masuk terus dalam CMS. Ya, so sama dengan my department punya postgrad, MPH, DIPH, kita orang ada course code. So kita ada course code, so dengan sendirinya saya tak perlu masukkan dalam SMS sebab dah masuk dah. So MMed dia tak ada course code. Sebab tu saya duduk keep on saying before this, I keep on saying please change MMed program into something on this thing. But sekarang saya dah malas cakap dah lah, because I've done for my public health. So for MMed, I don't know whether the conjoint really wants that or not. But with that, it's easier in terms of you tak payah nak masukkan dah. In fact, dalam e-learning tu pun saya memang ada kos-kos MPH dengan DIPH saya yang saya mengajar. Sebab bila kita hantar ke PG akan masukkan terus dalam SUP dan terus masuk dalam SMS. So sama juga dengan untuk medical degree course, memang semua dah terus masuk. In fact, examiner pun kita list out examiner, masukkan dalam majlis, so terus masuk dalam SUP dan SMS. So itu salah satu kebaikan course code lah. Tapi nak buat course code tu memang kena buat course dululah. Kena buat course dan kena berkampung dulu. Sebab itulah kami dulu nak buat 2 tahun. Sampai sabbatical saya pun, one of my sabbatical, actually I take sabbatical 2014, 9 months. My sabbatical, half my sabbatical is actually on reviewing the medical ethics teaching as well as getting the accreditation for our JPM ESN. So that is my sabbatical, human capacity building for ethics teaching and ethics practice. So I've done that during my sabbatical. Okay. So any other question? Mungkin detail dia tu dalam PBL training nantilah. Okay.
Untuk PBL trigger kan, with each new intake, do you change the trigger, and if not, how frequent do you change?
Okay, sekarang ni sebab kita orang, saya nak sudahkan 46 PBL baru ni pun memang rasa dia terrible sangat dah. Sebab kita nak edit, nak technical, nak tengok konten, sampai saya rasa saya memang belajar medik balik. Sebab saya kena baca biochemistry punya konten, physiology punya konten, sebab I'm as journalist, I know whether this is too much for undergrad or not. So sekarang ni kita dah ada 46. Now, starting from last year, certain department have started to make new triggers. So tapi bila dia make new triggers, dia kena hantar kat kami. So saya dan Anissa dan Najib akan tengok balik, reformat again, look back into the content and so on. Because kalau facilitator guide tu terlalu panjang, facilitator yang bukan area tu pun rasa penat juga nak baca. Dan dia mungkin tak baca pun. Okay. Jadi kita kena buat something. What I did before this is that I cut to certain level and then I put that in a separate, okay, for other further reading for the facilitator if you interested. So I put it differently so that taklah nampak, sebab kita punya evaluation facilitator pun terkejut tengok sampai 18-20 muka surat. So kita pun kena be friendly not only to student but also to facilitator, especially facilitator who are not medical doctor background. Because they are also a little bit, they feel bad also cannot share with our students because they are not medical doctor. Okay, so we have to make sure they also feel comfortable to become a facilitator. So we have doing that. So we are having more and more, but untuk kita nak betul-betul tukar the whole lot tu memang tak sempat lagi. Kita masih lagi memerlukan sumbangan-sumbangan PPL trigger. So far daripada KLE yang kita dapat, kita still kena baiki banyak. So kena berbelit banyak kan. So banyak lagi kita kena baiki. So tak banyak lagi lah.
Yang saya faham kemungkinan the first few years ni, IPPT akan mengguna semua bahan daripada PPSP. Where do you think that IPPT will play an active role, contributing ke, part of the curriculum?
Okay, sebenarnya tu
review?
kena timbalan dekan jawab tu. Okay. Okay.
Yang saya risau begini, kemungkinan kita akan mengatakan let us take a passive role. Biarlah apa yang berlaku di sana dan kita akan ikut aja, which is the best way to not to do much. Tapi kemungkinan after a few years, come on, I want to have a say jugalah dalam curriculum development.
Okay.
Probably that how then PPSP fit into it.
Yeah, the same thing that we did for KLE Belgaum. When we started KLE Belgaum in 2010, I remember very well because that is my first travel to overseas and being there for 2 weeks to settle and training staff in KLE Belgaum. We first have to give time for KLE to be comfortable with the system. So I think the same thing with IPPT. Of course, we have to give you time so that you can understand this is the conduct of PBL, this is the conduct of CBL, and so on. First, settle the whole thing. Then now, in KLE, we started to, a few years back, we already started training them to develop questions, exam questions. With that, so we go there, training them, and then they will submit us the questions, and we do vetting. So now with Skype and everything, we can do vetting online as well. So we started with exam question first. And then now we started for them to also help us to do more PBL triggers. So it must be in stages because we cannot expect to ask you to do straight away PBL triggers and everything. So it will be in stages. First, maybe you understand the whole system first, you are familiar with all these things, and then slowly we go for the PBL standard setting and so on. I'm sure later on you have to join together on the standard setting and so on as well. Because once you have the experience in teaching the students, then you can be involved in standard setting. So once we have the standard setting and then we have involved, even in PBL, in e-learning also, even though the lecturers at Kebangsaan put up his or her notes on the lecture, I don't think any problem for IPPT lecturers of that topic to also upload. So our students, we have more wisdom to go for the notes. And I think that will give the benefit to both of us, the teachers as well as the students. So that is what we're going to do. But of course, the first thing is that for you to familiarize with the system first. I hope that answer your question because I'm not involved in the earlier discussion on why IPPT have to start medical. Okay. Yeah.
The notes and give more information. So do you need to inform counterpart in PPSP or just you have a freedom?
I don't think we need that because if you look into the international ways of education now, when I went to Bilbao, Spain, what they call the resource sharing, even they call it lab web network, where you should be sharing resources. You should not say that this is my note, this is my PowerPoint, If you want to teach your student, you have to make your own PowerPoint. That should not be the mentality now. Okay, what we see in Bilbao is that even for engineering experimental, they have these robots, but they doesn't have this machine. But other university in Europe have the machine. So their students, when they went to the lab, they can just say put whatever they want to do for the experiment, and and then they go to the online. That university who have that machine will do that for them. So that is sharing resources that we have to do now, because we are not just focusing on teaching, and undergraduate is not the only task that we have to do. So we should not be doing what everybody is also doing, but we should share. So why not we share? It is not that my notes doesn't have that part and your note have that part, means that I'm not good. But that is what we also have. I think that's what our previous VC said: learn, co-learn, relearn, isn't it? So, and I don't think that you have to ask permission from us to add on, because you are also the teaching staff, and we should respect you. It's your expertise as well, isn't it? But so we should learn to each other. For me, for example, when I need to take lectures from my junior lecturer who are my student before, okay, I ask for her a PowerPoint, not because I didn't know or I don't want to look at the topic, but I also want to know, maybe she knows better than me, because that is her topic for a few years, which before this I'm the one who teach her. So why not? And then I know how is it. So you are learning also. So that's supposed to be the way that you should have. So for me, it is not that you are just following passively, but for me, I don't know, this is my own opinion, because I didn't know what is the top admin discussion. But for me, if IPPT have to start in IPPT, you are at part of us. We are working together. So that's why for our MOOC preparation safety, I would like to invite you all to join us to give the contribution of your material, so that we doesn't have to redo things that people already done. Why you have to? Okay, so that's the main thing. The same thing with KLE. They always ask us the PowerPoint. I give my PowerPoint to them so that they know this is what Malaysia concept, especially for ethics. I have to give them the notes and everything. But I told them, your student have to know also, because your student will be going and dealing with patient there. So you have to add on your own notes as well. So that's the whole idea. So I'm sure IPPT is also Malaysian. KLE lain cerita lah, dia lain cerita lain kan, duduk dekat benua lain pun. I think so we can work together so that we can improve and complement each other. For me, it is a compliment. It's not that you just follow. That's why we involve you in the review and so on. So later on, when we want to review again the next 5 years, we will include you together. For now, for curriculum review, we include KLE. Okay, so you are not the stakeholders. You are also you are the partner. Okay, so, and it's not a sleeping partner. You should be an active partner. That is my own opinion. I don't know how it is in the top admin discussion. Sorry. Mungkin Dr. Intan boleh cakap kot, discussion so far memang macam mana? Just follow through je ataupun macam mana?
Satu sebelum Dr. Intan jawab, cuma my question tadi relate to actually the main question is how much the freedom is actually given to IPPT to run the program, because we have the whole structure for medical program, but how much is actually for us to use the structure, the fundamental part, and then with our own blend so that we can have different.
Yang tu saya rasa kena orang yang duduk dalam admin ni jawab kot, sebab saya tak involved dengan discussion. I was just told that okay, we're going to start medical at IPPT, so go and train them. That's all. So I didn't know the whole thing.
Hello. Thanks Dr. Badrul. Dia punya jawapan? Kalau ikut governance yang kita bincang, governance maksudnya ini adalah program PPSP, kita adalah pusat penawaran yang baru. Dia bukan program kita. So kita still tertakluk kepada PPSP. Sebab tu kalau tengok tadi yang awal-awal tu dia ada slide yang kata kita bertanggung menjawab kepada pengarah dan dekan PPSP. Cumanya macam KLE, along the years, dia orang start training to be independent. So dan KLE saya rasa ambil masa 7 tahun, 8 tahun baru dia orang dapat arrive at that stage. Hopefully kita earlier sebab kita sama-sama Malaysian. Tapi kita memang dalam part of the discussion kita nak tengok independent tu dari segi satu perjalanan khusus memang lecture kalau boleh kita nak independent. Satu lagi adalah exam. Sebab walaupun exam kita nak benda yang sama, tapi kalau untuk clinical exam, OSCE, principally boleh sama tapi the material still lain-lain. Dan clinical cases yang kita dapat pun still lain-lain. Kita tak boleh nak lek-lek sama hidup. Tapi kalau MCQ semua tu yang tu boleh samalah. Tapi itulah masalahnya sebab the idea of everything kita masih tertakluk kepada accreditation by NQA. Tu yang kita punya gatekeeper to make this program accreditable so that bila graduate tu dia orang boleh kerja dan diterima. Tu yang kita punya problem. So sebab tu kita kena ikut dia orang.
Dia mainly because nak guna accreditation PPSP. But my experience with MQA, I can foresee that MQA will still want to come to IPPT to look into facilities, to look into lecturer-student ratio and so on still as part of the accreditation process. Sama macam KLE yang itu pun dia orang pergi kat KLE juga. Okay, so you most likely will also have to handle MQA visits. So mungkin first MQA visit is to look into facilities like skill center, pathology lab, microbiology lab, kan, student lecturer ratio. And then lepas tu bila you dah student you dah masuk tahun 1 dan nak masuk tahun 2, dia nak tengok on your preparedness on professional 1 exam. Okay, in terms of standardized patient, specimens and so on. And then lepas tu dia akan tengok pula on your preparation for the clinical phase. Maksudnya you punya agreement dengan hospital, you punya agreement dengan PKD, you punya agreement dengan primary care. So I can foresee every year. That's what we have been doing before. So walaupun akreditasi tu under PPSP, MD, USM, tapi sebab kita buka cawangan lain, dia akan tengok juga on the facility. Dan MQA akan termasuk juga tengok penempatan pelajar, financial support, semua jugalah. Semua 9 dokumen tu lah. Sampai ingat dah mana satu dokumen, mana satu. Facility, infrastructure, dokumen 6. But every year dia buat daripada tahun bila lagi. Saya memang pemegang dokumen 4 for student support system. Okay. Tapi yang tu mungkin training seterusnya lah kot, lebih detail kot.
Akhir sekali, sebagai penghargaan, saya menjemput Dr. Intan Juliana Abdul Hamid, Ketua Program Dr. Perubatan USMD IPPT bagi memberi token cenderahati kepada Dr. Nur Azwani. Terima kasih sekali lagi kepada Dr. Nur Azwani, Dr. Intan serta semua peserta untuk program ini. Kita dah sampai ke penghujungnya. Semoga ada kesempatan lain di hari lain. Terima kasih.
Oh, okay. Ada announcement. Ada makanan kat belakang, boleh ambil